Hey everybody, and welcome back. My name's Ryan Selvy, and this is the File News Show, the show for all creators, for design updates, creator updates, art updates, you name it. We keep you updated with all of the changing news in the forever changing landscape of being a creator. We're here every Wednesday at this time, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific, and it's really great to see a bunch of people in the chat. We've got a lot of news to go through today, so I'm not going to hold off on too long. All of the links are available via Raindrop, which Wade has put in the chat for you guys, but I'll also be showing them on screen. So let's go ahead and hop on into the news. So, as you guys probably know at this point, we had a big event in London last week, which was Adobe Max London. A lot of really cool things were announced and updated on, which is great. Oliver says updates about updates. That's what we're here for. And we have Tom Felton from Harry Potter. Actually, let's have him do the little intro for us. So let's check that out.
Designers, illustrators, type wizards, get ready for a renaissance of vectors. So, why are fans going wild? Well, first up, generative shape fill, which lets you fill any shape with detailed, colorful designs in seconds. So all of these pixelated charms could appear inside any shape.
Like this, Mr. Felton?
Incredible. But wait, there's more. Text to pattern is here to create generative patterns of any size. And guess what? Tom loves giant patterns.
Like this, Mr. Felton?
Now that is incredible. But can the rubber ducks be any bigger?
It's a vector. You can have it as big as you want.
Even bigger? Now that is a vector renaissance indeed.
I really enjoyed the also little Max effects and branding. They're always really exciting. We did a little news story actually about the branding for Max a few weeks ago on a previous episode where it broke down how they reapproached the Max branding to reflect all the updates that came from it and the way that we create. So make sure you check that out if you've never seen it before. There's a few articles about it, but I thought that was a really good introduction to Max. It was a loaded week. There's a lot of updates and exciting things, but one of the things that I've heard a lot of people talk about probably is this new creative apprenticeship. And this is something that is available to learn more about on the Adobe blog. Like I said, everything is linked to in the Raindrop. But just to read directly from the horse's mouth, it says, today at Adobe Max London, we unveiled the latest Adobe Creative Cloud packed with new AI tools in Firefly, time-saving features, and performance boosts. That's for just in general with the exciting updates, but also as far as creative apprenticeship, this was a new update that is for creators to kind of get a head start and get into the creative world with different like incentives that you can then have under your wing for let's see, it says the world is bursting with creative talent, from art school graduates ready to apply their skills in the professional workforce to freelancers carving out a name for themselves on Instagram and YouTube. What's more, demand for business-minded artists continues to explode. According to KBV research, the U.S. digital advertising market will expand nearly 13% by 2030, with both big brands and agencies on the hunt for creatives to grow their teams. But it takes more than talent to succeed in the creative industries. While many aspiring designers, illustrators, photographers, and videographers have the skills and visions to create standout work, they lack the real-world support, mentorship, and confidence needed to navigate the industry. Questions like how to get your foot in the door, how to pitch yourself, how to network. These are practical skills need to turn their talent, taste, and technical skills into a career, and Adobe really want to help bridge that gap. They're announcing the Adobe Creative Apprenticeship, a new program that provides young artists and creative entrepreneurs with real-world jobs, mentorship, and network opportunities from Adobe and our committed brand partners. This advice and feedback they receive and the skills they develop working on paid projects will help participants to strengthen their creative abilities as well as encourage them to build relationships with industry professionals who can accelerate their learning and put them on the path to career success. So this is really cool. There's a whole portal where people can kind of respond to jobs and get jobs. There's a whole new incentive of being able to provide resources and education and opportunities, not only with Adobe, but also with brand partners. And it seems like it's a really good thing to get into, especially if you're like straight out of school, or maybe it's something that you want to explore. Something that will continue to pop up. There are more streams now on Fridays that are about this creative apprenticeship. You guys are familiar with Andrew Hockrottle. He is really spearheading this entire program, and it's got a lot of people talking, and it's really good to see Adobe give back to the community and give back to artists and help them kind of create a name for themselves, because when you apply to a job, you know, you're always going to have like, we want 10 years experience, but we want, you know, a 21-year-old, and you're like, okay, well, from where? What do I do with that? Also, at Adobe Max London, there was Adobe Firefly updates. This was a new image model that came out, which is more successful and easier to create realistic images. It's really good at being able to understand more complex prompts, which is exciting. There's Firefly boards, which are these kind of brainstorming boards where you can create generative AI and go off of it and move it around and have comments so that you can come up with new ideas. There's a new Firefly mobile app. Illustrator has sped up a lot, which actually there was a really good post on Instagram from our good friend Tiny Party Hat, and I will let her talk about it first.
You probably know a key element of my art style is the subtle edge texture. My work just never feels complete without it. And that's where the roughen effect in Illustrator comes in. It works by adding and randomly displacing points, creating this jagged look that you can easily adjust. However, adding thousands and thousands of points has typically required a lot of this. But not anymore. I just love partnering with Adobe, especially when I get to know secret news like this ahead of time. With new updates to Illustrator, the effects are going to be up to 5 times faster. Getting a boost on something that I use all the time is really going to add up. And that improvement is in addition to other performance enhancements, like more responsive menus and instant font browsing. I can't wait. And well, actually, I won't have to. There's a link in my bio, and you should try it out right now.
That was Katya. She's a wonderful creator. She always really walks through a bunch of stuff. But make sure you check out her Instagram, Tiny Party Hat. She makes these really cute animals. She goes alphabetically from A to Z. I don't know what letter she's on now, but she's creating really good ones. Something's up with the audio, or is the music removed? Yes, the music is removed because YouTube loves to give, strikes and loves to break down your videos when there is audio, so I have to put them through a mechanism to remove the music. But to Wade's point, it's just that old timey radio effect, and so that you know that she's really giving you some exciting news. One other thing that I want to really highlight too is that there is a new understanding in Photoshop of selecting details, which I think is really, really cool. So not only will it just do a select subject, but you can say like select jacket or select pants. You can select everybody's eyes or their hair, and then you can go off of those masks because it's using new capabilities that are able to understand your image and then help you select things so that you can easier make objects happen, which is really nice. And then the other thing that I saw was for InDesign, you can now turn PDFs into InDesign files. Here it is. In Adobe InDesign, you can now easily convert PDFs to InDesign documents, transform shapes and objects in your layouts with generative fill beta, and effortlessly create and style math and science notations with math expressions. So for all you InDesign lovers out there, there are updates for InDesign. There is a ton of other things that are on the updates for Max London. We've been going over it, I guess, for like the last week or so. I don't want to bore you guys if you've already heard it, and I also don't want to make it entirely about Max London, but it is exciting new updates. You can check out all these new updates on blog.adobe.com. The link is in the raindrop for you, and I encourage you guys to go check it out and see what's new, because there's cool stuff to speed up your workflow. In other news outside of Adobe, YouTube is experimenting with AI summarized videos. And so when I first saw this, I was a little confused. I thought it was just going to be like summaries of it. But this is coming from Passion Fruit, Charlotte Colombo. This is saying that basically AI overviews will let you highlight clips from videos that will be mostly helpful for your search query. So Google said in a post on the YouTube community forums that this is most likely to show you this when you search for more information about products you're shopping for, like best noise canceling headphones, or when you search for more information about locations or things to do in those locations, such as museums to visit in San Francisco. And it'll kind of like isolate and show you the things that you want to get out of the video. The reason I wanted to highlight this on the show is just the fact that short form content is becoming even shorter now, because we are now getting into the shorter summarized parts of the shorter videos. So keep that in mind when you're creating. I'm not saying get rid of long form content. Long form content is also expanding and getting bigger, but also when you are getting smaller and smaller, just remember that having a brand voice, having a brand look, having a brand identity that is identifiable, even if someone cuts it up, whether that is a human or a service like YouTube, that someone can see it and they know who you are. So even if like you're sharing your screen and you're showing something, put something on there that lets the world know it's you. Let your voice and your style and your approach be inescapable from the things that you create. That way, when it is inadvertently cut out from your hands, then you're able to still be able to point back to it and people will be like, oh, this came from Tracy Marie. So interesting update. Also with Snapchat, did you guys know that Snapchat was going to be making a lighter form of its app and they've decided not to do that anymore? I have a lot of friends that still use Snapchat. I don't particularly use it too much, but there was an update that apparently they were going to be trying to create this limited version of it where they took out the maps and stories of it. But in a recent call update, they for their Q1 2025 earnings update, they said that they are going to not be pursuing the simplified version anymore. And basically, we get to stick around with regular old Snapchat. That's from Aisha Malik, which I feel like we report on her articles like every week. Wonderful reporting on TechCrunch, and make sure you go and check that out. In other news of things that I wish that I would learn, but I don't know if I ever will, on Creative Block, they tested one of the most portable new laser engravers on the market, and boy, is it impressive. It's called the LaserPecker 5. It looks kind of like a coffee mate. It kind of looks like something that you would make a pot of coffee in, but instead it is something that is going to actually laser engrave onto things that you put into it. Apparently they were pretty impressed with the different outputs that they got for it. It is going for $3,299. So like I said, I don't see myself getting it anytime soon, but it's its 5th generation. So they are really getting the hang of it at this point. The biggest things that say don't work for it is that it's a small work area. It has near essential accessories sold separately and requires practice to get it down. But they said that it's impressive for versatility, reliable and safe, and it has a great mobile experience. So if you're someone who is creating physical things and you need to get information on there, or you need to get more branding of some point, this is something that you could potentially explore. If you end up getting it, please let me know. Can I come over and can I please try it with you? Or if anyone wants to give me $3,299, I'll buy it and we'll do it on the show. The name is not working for Wade. He does not like the LaserPecker 5. Maybe you'll like it better when it goes into the LaserPecker 6, to be determined. What would you guys end up calling it rather than the LaserPecker? What would you like to explore? And then also in fascinating, interesting news, you guys probably saw this last week, but this color, look at it. It is technically, as far as a hexadecimal, 01FFCE, which bizarrely almost looks as it spells office. What does it look like when you do OFF1CE? Oh, office kind of looks like this. But anyway, this is the closest color to Olo, which is apparently a new color that's only ever been seen by 5 people. By the way, Spotlight Games says that they'll give us $3,300 for for this new laser engraver. So thank you to Spotlight Games. You can wire the money later. But this is apparently a new color that scientists and researchers discovered. Basically, it works off of using the cones in your eyes. And the cones in your eyes go off of different levels of sensitivity. And this is actually why they think that purple is kind of actually a made-up color, because on the spectrum there is no purple. However, if you shoot lasers into the eyes, you're able to see something that kind of accesses different parts of the eyes that we wouldn't see otherwise. And there was this color that was created, and it can only be seen with the help of a laser tool that only activates your M cones. M is in Mary. Apparently there's different types of isolations that you can do, and so they made this color kind of called Olo. There also was this other paint company that then created a paint out of that new color, but needless to say, the human eye is only experiencing things that your brain can decipher. So it's really interesting to think about how there will be a bunch of different colors everywhere else that we can't see. You know, you see like the mantis shrimp that can see like X-ray and all these other different layers that we just can't see around us, and we're just kind of like swimming through all this information. Fascinating to see. Wade is saying there's been a lot of talk about this, kind of a mess. Penny's saying what a time to be alive. Alyssa's late to the party, but she says hey, so welcome to the stream, everybody. And Evie's saying, seeing as this is the realm of my favorite color, I feel like I see this in my head a lot. Well, hey, maybe Olo is the color of your dreams that essentially works out. And then we'll get two more updates. We got content credentials updates, which got a shout out at Adobe Max London. And the thing here that I really wanted to report on was the same thing that Fast Company called out as well. This is coming from Mark Wilson. And basically, we're releasing a way to say this was created without generative AI. There's a lot of benefits to content credentials to show you what's been modified, where it came from, how many times it's been modified. But something that is really important to a lot of artists is the fact that they don't want their work to be manipulated with AI, confused with AI, accredited to AI. So this is something that is able to say this was made by a human, this is human creation, there was no AI in this, and now content credentials is actually in open beta now. So if you want to get content credentials, you just download the application extension onto your browser, and then when you're surfing the web, there's like little content credential information on the side. Tracy wants to know if she can laser it into her eyeballs with the LaserPecker 5. You know, I'm definitely not going to suggest it, but I would love to hear if you try. Definitely not encouraged by File New. We accept no responsibility for that. Mantis shrimp, Apurva says, I wonder what it gets to see in my stomach. You going to eat the mantis shrimp? Oh, boy. And then a lot of things that we're talking about, things a lot of people are talking about. And obviously, as we all know, the Pope died last week or the week before, and it was a really big news story. A lot of people are focusing on like what happens next, who's the next Pope, the funeral, etc., etc. But the design world, of course, is obsessed with the fact that the kerning on the tomb is awful. This comes also from Fast Company. It says the kerning on the Pope's tomb is a travesty. And an unfortunate resting place for an individual who leaves a rich legacy. Luckily, the legacy is a lot more important, but you can see here that it looks like FR space A space NCISCVS. Somebody online named Christopher Calderheed actually was able to break down why it is the way that it is. Hold a second. Give me a second. Oh no. All right, we're gonna have to close and open that up again. Close. The Pope is like, don't mock my tombstone. We're gonna freeze Photoshop. So you can see here that there's a focus on the spacing between the letters. At the top for FR, and at the bottom for RAN, and at the top again for the rest of the tomb. This is coming from Christopher Calderheed. It's rough, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I saw the article and I was like, oh, like maybe that'd be disrespectful to report on. I think that maybe they need to make another head to that, because it's like someone just, I don't even know, guys. That's wild. That's nuts. How did that happen? Like, that's not even, that can't even, the RAN can't even be like system default. Like, someone accidentally went there and addressed the tracking or whatever. Hey, Larian. And this is also something that they're saying, if ever there was a place for optical kerning, this is it. This is clever. And yeah, it's rough. Alyssa says that it's hard to look at. But I think it's a really good transition to talk about type, because we have a regular segment on the show called Font of the Week. And so let's do that, and let's hop into Font of the Week. All right, so for Font of the Week, we like to offer up 3 different options. And from those 3 different options, we like to go and break down what makes them cool, what kind of typefaces they are, and we also let you guys vote on what is best. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, before we even hop into the segment here, I'm just going to create the poll on YouTube. So if you're not watching on YouTube, if you're over watching on Behance or something, would love for you to hop over just for at least the poll and vote on your favorite. As it is running in the background, we will be doing some talking about what makes each one cool. And so we have Gigantic, Og Display, and we also have Bisbee. I already have my favorite, but I'm gonna try not to. I'm gonna try to not let you guys know off the start. We also like to go in and write out the name, file new, in the typeface that we're talking about. So I'm going to go and create file new in Gigantic. And because we just talked a lot about it, we're going to make sure that our tracking is all updated. We have a window, and you can go to either character or paragraph. And when you do that, you can see that there is 0 spacing for tracking, which you could automatically do. You have the size, and then we want to make sure that also, as far as kerning goes, it is based off of, let's do optical, I guess. But you can switch it between optical and metric. Metric actually works better. And it feels a little tight, so I would maybe even kind of spread it out a little bit, just barely. It's obviously going to be a display typeface. This is a typeface that is not going to be used for body copy because it's too hard to read. And if you're wondering, like I said, all of these are available on Adobe Fonts, and this one comes from the Font Foundry, right? Dave Rowland type. It is coming in only one giant regular weight, so it is what you get, you know, it's the whole thing. And it says that apparently, as far as Dave Rowland type, the Foundry's typefaces will breathe new life into your work with a passion for fonts. Dave uses artistry and craft to transform your words with his captivating array of typefaces. More than just letters, his fonts are distinctly versatile, widely detailed, and carefully defined. Whether you need a classic serif, modern sans, playful script, or quirky display, Dave Rowland type embodies emotion, style, and storytelling. So as far as them specifically talking about Gigantic, I can go up and I can pull up what they say as far as it goes. I don't know if they actually have anything for it, so maybe I lied. But also, as you can always go to fonts in use, and you can see them using it, which is always really cool. But it is loud, it is big, it is Tracy's saying it looks like Philo now. And Purvis says it's best if you don't want your tomb to be found. We're going to then go up next to Og Display, which is our second option here. This comes with a lot more options as far as weights that you can have, and you can either have it kind of italicized to be curly, or you can just have it be this serif typeface that It has a bit of elegance to it. It says it's a calligraphic typeface available in 10 styles. It comes from Sharp, and I think that this is nice and fancy. It gives me like Lord of the Rings vibes just a little bit. I don't know if Erin, my fiance, would be mad at me for that. But it comes from Lucas Sharp from Monotype, and it says that it was inspired by the hand lettering of the 20th century book designer and calligrapher Oscar Ogg, which is where the name comes from. Ogg captures the unique mix of calligraphic and typographic form he achieved through his use of hand-carved pen nibs, brushes, and whiteout. Signature moves found throughout Ogg's calligraphic works were explored, exaggerated, and refined in the high-contrast design space of Ogg. The original lettering samples are a combination of calligraphic strokes, contour drawings, and whiteout. This combination of calligraphic and constructed forms became the most perfect jumping off point for typographic exploration. And man, I powered through, but that write-up had me say calligraphic so many times. And I was in my head about it, but here we are. Lissa's saying that she loves it, but she thinks that the E is pretty crazy. As we saw last week, when you can highlight and right click, you can also look at alternates, and this one in particular seems to have a good handful of different alternates that play around with how long the extender of the E goes. If you want to go to your window and check out your glyphs, you can always see all of them outside of any. You can see that the F gets a little goofy with how long it extends. And you know, it has nice whatchamacallit, I can't think of the name, ligatures between like G and G and FI, FK, FH, which is always really good to have ligatures when you're approaching a different typeface, because then you can kind of have more concise. And then it has a lot of different symbols for you, which is really cool. And so this is just the regular medium size, but then I also want to show you guys again bold italic, which adds a lot more flavor, and this also comes with its own alternates. If you're ever wondering what has alternates and what doesn't, if you highlight it, you can see there's a little checker box underneath of it, and you can always look for specific ones that says show alternates for selection, and it will show you something that you can switch through, which is really strong. You just double click and it switches it out. And then finally, we have Bisbee, which is a variable font. Variable font, as you guys know, I love to talk about them. This is from Dalton Mag, and it has a really good animation actually on the Adobe Fonts website, where it gets thinner and wider, and it's up to you as to how thick or thin you want it to have based off of it. This is really strong, especially when you're designing. You can also have a animation between these two if you're editing your source text, which is nice. I've done that before for type projects where I want to make something kind of bolden up, and you just use a variable font, and then you can kind of create it. Gotta make sure I have Bisbee right. I like Bisbee as a bold font. It's very playful. It's a sans serif, obviously, with very curved letters and kind of funky feelings for it. It is I don't know. It's playful, but I think still professional. I don't know if they have many alternates. I don't think there are any really alternates for this one. It's just kind of you get what you get. So with that, I'm going to just take a look at who is currently in the lead. It is, wow, a pretty close split between Ogg and Bisbee. Apparently people are not into gigantic, which is interesting, but good to know. I will let the poll continue to go as we hop into some other stuff, but just to let you guys know, we will declare a winner, and I'll put the little crown on top of it, and we'll have a great time, and we'll all go from there. But we've got a lot to go through still, and so I'm going to hop over to resources. And what, I swear, none of my transitions work anymore. It drives me nuts. They work when I'm not live, and then as soon as I go live, guys, you just have to take my word for it. We have some really good videos this week. I'm going to start off with Craig Hill. Craig Hill is a physical design studio where they're like printing things, but I thought that they really brought up a cool point about noticing design world around you, and I reached out to them to see if I could include their video, and they said yes. So let's check it out.
Without a draft angle, a rigid part coming out of a rigid mold, there's friction happening all along this point to this point. It's called drag. There's a chance that the surfaces that are being dragged get damaged. So a draft angle, once the part starts to exit, there's a much larger gap that forms all around the part. You're not getting rubbing all the way up. Once you realize that they are very necessary, you'll kind of start seeing them all around you. Quite a pronounced draft angle on this. Pops out of the mold in this direction, and the draft angle helps it release. On the other end of the spectrum are plastic parts that are perceived as having straight walls, like this charging block, but there's a very slight draft angle to this. This part is drafted this way, probably pops out of the part in this way. Now we have a question for you. As a designer, understanding draft angles helps us dissect how objects we don't design ourselves are made. And sometimes we come across something that stumps us. So the question is, how is a complicated part like this lid extracted from the mold? The simple incorporation of draft angles won't help because of these threads. Each one of these threads is an overhang. So you can't really just pull it out of the mold. You would destroy all the threads. What do you think happens here? Or what do you know happens here?
They lead you there wanting to interact and learn more and get into the comments, which I respect. But the reason I wanted to include this in particular is just to really start to kind of pay attention to the world around you with design. And it's kind of cool to see that, you know, there are different things, like even your trash cans, that have that very small angle, as well as electrical sockets. And if you are paying attention to these things, then you can then also apply them to your own designs or the own things that you're creating. Or if you're replicating these things in a 2D space, to just keep in mind that these are something that exists, which is very interesting. Next up, we have some Adobe Illustrator tips for you. This is coming from Techie Lads, and this is all about curved outline text in Adobe Illustrator. As a call out, I did have to remove the music on this one, so this might sound a little old-time radio-y to you again, but let's check out this video.
Designers, here's how to curve already outlined text around a path. Okay, I want to curve text around this shape, but I've outlined my font and made some modifications. What do I do? Yes, you can type your text on a path first, then make modifications, but what happens if you need to do that after the fact? First, select both lines and go to Object, Blend, Make, and set the specified steps to 1. This will create a stroke exactly in the middle point between the lines. Then back to Object, Blend, Expand. Delete parts of the line you don't need. Then select the letters, make sure they're ungrouped, and go to Object, Objects on a Path, Attach. Select the line to attach. You can adjust the spacing and positioning of the letters with these controls and also the rotation. Hold Shift to snap to predetermined angles or Option to space around the center point. Finally, select the line and remove the stroke color.
I think it's really helpful. I know that a lot of times you open up an old like project or an old file and you have outlined the font. There is a way also now where you can identify the font within Photoshop and within Illustrator, which is really good. But this is also something that, like, if maybe you don't want to even mess with the idea of bringing back the typeface, or you don't have the typeface on your computer anymore or something, this is a good way to be able to switch it without having to do text on path, which is really important. Also, I saw in the chat over on YouTube, Tracy said that the winning font is going on the Pope's tomb, which is hilarious. Umacorn's also saying that she saw this tutorial and it's very good. So thank you to Techie Lads for letting us use this. This last one doesn't have any audio, so I'm just going to have to talk over top of it, but it's coming from Graphic Design Park, and it's all about using edits that are universal. So let's check this out. And basically the old way is you would have 4 of the same shape and you'd have to recreate the modifications to each one. But there is this global edit now, where if you go and start global edit, it can then highlight all 4 things, and then it will update it accordingly to all 4 different things that you're creating. So maybe this is, in this case, it's something like coffee beans. But if this was something like stars that you were messing with, or if, like, you were even messing with a bunch of little candies and you can update that, snowflakes, anything in bulk that you could then have move, and it will even understand the rotation that you have. Therefore, it'll understand that you are creating it all from the same angle, so that then it can kind of create, and then you don't have to do any sort of rotation. Evie says, what? There's so many good things to learn. My brain can't cope. All right, well, then we'll watch it one more time, because I know that one was a little bit shorter. And this is just one. This is also over in Illustrator, and it just goes, you just go up to the top, and then you're going to hop into start global edit, and then from there you'll be able to make global edits to multiple objects. Let's hop out of Adobe products just for a second here for some other web-based resources. This is a font identifying tool where you don't have to download an extension or upload a screenshot into your Illustrator or Photoshop. Let's say you just want to use a straight up website to understand what's on a website. This is what they say is a Pinterest for fonts, which of course has the disclaimer that like you don't own these fonts, you can't use these fonts, especially for any commercial purposes, but it is a way of being able to save different things. So like if we go to adobe.com, on here, it will load it and it will identify the typefaces that are available on Adobe, and then you're able to bookmark them and save them and have them to your own collection, so that way when you want to go back to them you can then always explore the different typefaces that you have and see how they're used. It's kind of like fontsinuse.com, but instead it's the ones that you use and you explore with. Unfortunately, it looks like it is maybe struggling a little bit today. I wonder if it's just the Adobe one, or like let's try like what's a different website that we could go to. We could go to what if we went to blog.adobe.com. Does that make any difference? Nope, failed to fetch report. So there is apparently also a Chrome extension that you could use for more robust font detection, but looks like it's a little buggy. So who knows if you want to use that resource, but what can you say? Moving right on along, let's go and hop into a spotlight. Since we were talking so much about colors today, let's see if we can explore subjective colors. So apparently, you know, you guys all heard it before, where there is an idea that colors aren't the same for everybody. They're different from person to person. And philosophers are kind of exploring the idea that maybe, you know, your blue isn't the same as my blue. And it's an interesting article. This is by The Conversation over on Fast Company. They're saying there is perceptual variation. It says there's a surprising amount of variation in how people perceive the world. If you offer a group of people a spectrum of color chips ranging from chartreuse to purple and ask them to pick the unique green chip, the chip with no yellow or blue in it, their choices would vary considerably. Indeed, there wouldn't be a single chip that most observers would agree is unique green. Generally, an object's background can result in dramatic changes in how you perceive colors. If you place a gray object against a lighter background, it will appear darker than if you place it against a darker background, which is, you know, color theory, and we've gone over that before. We've also, of course, seen the the dress, you know, is it white, is it blue kind of vibe. And also, guys, seeing Font of the Week is at a tie, so if you haven't voted yet, make sure you vote on the Font of the Week, because right now it is 43% to 43%, which is fascinating because Gigantic is getting wrecked. So I'll put them on the screen while I'm talking about this color, though. So it's just interesting because, you know, obviously when you're designing, there's so much of idea of what color is, but it's really important also to understand that like the world outside is going to impact it, both through other color theory or even just like the space around it, or even someone's background. I know that there was a you know, study with African communities that like since they didn't have green in their culture, they weren't able to see green. They identify it closer to a blue. So it's also really important that if you're going into any of your your edits for your own projects, that you can go to view and you can actually explore color blindness here, and it'll switch everything to show you what it looks like. So for someone who apparently has color blindness of Pronotopia, they're not going to see the purple in File New, or, you know, not Deuteronomy, it's not a cat, Deuteranopia, it's also going to look a little bit different. So just something to always kind of remember. You can turn proof colors on and off just from the view settings, and just something to approach when you're approaching design. Hues and Cues enter the chat, says Alyssa, which is a very fun game if you guys have never played it before. But yes, very, very good point, actually. Hues and Cues. Hello to Peter Becks. And EVs also say colors have a frequency, which isn't often mentioned much. Being able to sense that frequency is individual, so it makes sense to not be perceiving the colors the same. Bliss says Ryan accidentally went biblical. I mean, between the Pope news and the new colors and everything in between, I'm sorry. Next up, what is the next thing I have for us today? We have. Oh, yes. Article on It's Nice That, and it is rejecting digital perfection, which I thought was an interesting trend report. This is basically saying that, for the longest time, we were all into getting like really good, fixated, professional looking stills, tripods, lighting, you name it. And now more and more, the spectrum is now leading the other direction, where now is a shift away from digital perfection and is instead highlighting the human touch as a way to make impactful design. So when you're creating something, it might feel inauthentic if you are creating it as an inauthentic piece. I mean, obviously, it's kind of to my vision here, and my opinion here, is that it's kind of like tailored pants. Like, we're gonna switch between skinny jeans and baggy jeans like over and over and over and over again. Boot cut, I don't even know, like when they're like low rise jeans, high rise jeans. But like if you go to the tailor and you just get a nice photograph, like that's never gonna fully go out of style. It might not feel as trendy as the other things, but like if you just don't stick to trends of like super overexposed imagery or like really intense lighting or backlighting in either direction, you're going to be in a good spot. However, trends are important. I know, for example, like I'm looking at wedding photographers, and something that we saw over and over again is this like new trend where people just take a picture and they just whip it to the side, and it looks really blurry and it looks fun. It looks like it's nice, but at the same exact time, those are going to look exactly like they were taken in 2023. Like, just something to keep in mind. So, rejecting digital perfection, don't take it as, like as law. You don't have to make things not look professional, but it is something that like people are gravitating towards more of it. But also at the same time, remember that trends are normally just trends, and they are something that just continuously is moving around. So something to just keep in mind. As we talk about the changing design world, also on It's Nice That, Ritupria Bazoo was writing an article about Can You Smell Design? And this is talking about how there is design for fragrance bottles or different materials that are now all on a digital space. I remember growing up, we had the magazines that had the little flaps that you could like kind of peel open and you could smell the fragrance, and it's part of a brand. But now, as far as we get farther and farther away from that, we have to really kind of find ways to articulate that and represent that in visual forms. Of course, that is extremely hard to do, and you're not necessarily going to get directly the same thing, but you look at different perfume commercials, or you look at even food. It can have a different feeling if something is on an all-white website or an all-white page spread or Instagram ad, as opposed to like really bright red and yellow, to really give you that satiated feel. So I think that smell is a very important part of a brand identity. I mean, just like any other senses. I know we've talked about the importance of sound design in branding, but it's an interesting kind of exploration. They do a really good breakdown of a bunch of different brands, and you guys should check it out on It's Nice That. As another cool thing to check out, this one's just like a fun little spotlight. This is from My Modern Met, which tend to have really fun different highlights of different cool work. And this is Hyperlong Exposure photos. It's a cool way of being able to take both old and new space and show time passing. This is why Gary Pycroft is drawn to the medium and why he feels compelled to reinvent it. So Gary Pycroft is one creating these. But it's cool to see this kind of combination with these buildings that have not changed so much over the years and still have this same spot. This also is going to tie into a hyperlink that we're probably going to look at if we have enough time. But really cool to see the livelihood. He really focuses a lot on the people on the streets. And then it's also really interesting when he integrates people, like in this one, they're wearing COVID masks, which is fascinating. But then, of course, even back then, this landscape was the same as these buildings stayed the same as well. And just a cool approach. Would probably take a lot of time, pre-planning, and effort. Make sure you get the right angle. Make sure you get the right spots. Get buildings that are old enough. Harder to do in America than maybe over in Europe. But very cool, very inspiring. Nothing really beyond that. Just thought it was really cool. And check it out. It's on My Modern Met for the highlight for it. And then 8 branding mistakes that will make you seem amateur. I'm not going to go through all of these. Don't want to steal the entire article, but I thought it was a really good call out. I also wanted to bring the question to chat as to ask you guys what other things you guys feel make something look amateur. This is coming from Rosie Hilder at Creative Block. The first one is inconsistent visual identity. It says, as the winners of the brand impact awards know, consistency is key. In fact, consistency across touch points is one of the pillars that judges are asked to consider when making their decision. Visual consistency builds trust, says Jacob. When elements like colors, fonts, and spacing vary across your marketing materials, it creates cognitive dissonance for customers, and they may not identify exactly what's wrong, but something feels off. It says the way to fix it is to have simple brand guidelines. And this is going back also to when we were talking at the top of the hour. We were talking about YouTube and how things can be pulled and picked. And you want to make sure that your stuff is consistent across everything. It's important to have brand guidelines and a brand vision, a brand voice. And that way people can tell it to you. Some of the other ones are poor typography choices. Luckily, you guys have Font of the Week, which, thank goodness, finally just broke its tie. We'll do the winner of that in just a few minutes. There's other things like low-quality photography, which I think is also hand-in-hand also with low-quality audio. A lot of times is you really need to focus to make sure that your audio is legible and not painful to listen to. I know we said that when even earlier we had a radio talkie voice, but people will give up on your videos so quickly if you have bad audio, so much faster than they will if you have bad visuals, although bad visuals can still hurt your credibility. But also, as we just talked, like the idea of having a more less professional looking visual can help. It just has to be intentional. Peter says, who decides that if it's amateur? No one. I mean, it's up to everyone, and it's just how you want to be perceived and how it looks. As with anything else, everything is subjective, and it's something that if you want to present yourself in a certain way, like, it just kind of relies on that. There are a few other options here. Like I said, I don't want to steal the entire article, so I'm not going to go through all of it. But inconsistent social media presence is also good. Not good. I mean, it's also a good point of like showing that there is inconsistency across your spread. And then a neglected website experience. Basically just to feel established and to feel like it's something that is fully foundational and created and rock solid. And you know, I can even learn from some of these myself. Is there anything that you guys also think is a big indicator of amateur work, or is there anything else? Wade says the professionals, of course, or other salty amateurs, of course. That's always, you know, we are our own biggest critics, but also our critics are also our biggest critics. In some updating brand news, there was a Supreme Court case that was rejected with Kroger, and they were challenging Grubhub for a trademark. Basically, Kroger was saying that the fork and knife logo that they use for Home Chef was the same as the fork and the knife for Grubhub, which I've seen both. And it is interesting because it's like, can you really put down the use case of a fork and a knife? Is it the same as, you know, like Apple's Apple, where it's hard to see kind of like, yes, it's an apple, but it is so iconic. I'll go and I can pull this up. It's on Brand New. There's a good write-up for it. But the idea of this fork and the knife and a house, is there confusion? Is there brand confusion? Is it the same thing? I mean, there are 3 sporks on the fork. but you know, one is way more negative space, homey, like fun vibes, and one feels more professional, like Home Chef. But apparently, the Supreme Court said no thanks. Nope, these are different enough. And I'm interested to hear if you guys think they are different enough too. With that, since we have like 5 minutes left, I'm gonna end the poll here, and I am gonna say congratulations to Og Display, real quick. You guys love the cutie, or not this cutie. You guys like the fancy one. So congratulations to that. Big round of applause for Og, font of the week. And since we only have a few minutes left, I do want to say, so I'm going to start one more poll, and I'm going to say, are these logos too similar? And we're going to say, yes, way too similar, or nah, they different. Not there. We're going to do they different. And I'm going to start that poll, and I'd love to hear what you guys think between these two, Home Chef and Grubhub. Is it something that is way too similar and there is brand confusion or copyright plagiarism? Not to say that one was even created as the other, but is it something that the two are there? Which is just interesting to see what you guys think of. So we'll have that. And then one last thing that I have for us, because we only have like 3 minutes left, is the hyperlinks that we have for today. And this is a fun one that you can do. It's like a daily challenge, and it's called Which Year? It is whichyr.com. And basically they give you 5 pictures, and you have to decide which year it was taken and how close you are to that year. I'm going to make myself look like a big old silly man because I'm not going to know these. But I'm going to assume this is maybe in late 60s. Maybe we'll do 1968. Ooh, I was only 1 year off. It was 1969, ladies and gentlemen. Joan Aldrin applauds her husband Buzz as he returns from Earth from the moon. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. This is teaching students to play cricket. I'm going to say this is much older. We're going to say this is in the early 30s, maybe 1933. Oh, I was 1 year off again. Oh gosh. Okay, cool. So it's in London. This is a computer, so we're going to be way closer to the 80s and 90s. This is going to be early 90s, I got to feel it. But they're still printing things out, and the display is still kind of DOS, and it's not Windows. So I'm going to say 1988. Boom. I'm great at this. I didn't do this before stream either. This is a little bit later. They're still on landlines, so I'm going to say 98. Oh, 99. Oh, I accidentally hit 99, but I get it anyway. And then, college students in the library, it's black and white, but it's pretty crisp. So I'm going to say 52. Oh, I was 10 years off. But it's interesting. It has updates. It gives you each year. It gives you global score. I did better than everybody else today, which is cool. And just kind of a fun little photography challenge. Let's check out and close this poll. Oh, this poll, you guys, with 12 votes is straight down the middle. Literally 50% of you say it's way too similar, and 50% of you say they're different. So I'm going to give you 10 more seconds if one more person wants to vote. Otherwise, we're going to get on out of here. Make sure you stick around for office hours up next. And then I am also realizing that the boys at Motion Design Hotline sent me a little promo, and I did not play it. So we're going to close out with a fun promo from Kyle and Evan. And then we will see you guys all next week. Same time, same place. Oh, nope. Okay, cool. We're good. Ooh, I panicked for a second. We made it through. And then we're just going to go here. We're probably going to get cut off. I'm going to get rid of my face, and I'll see you guys all soon. We also need to make sure that there is audio output capture here. If you're watching on YouTube, you won't get cut off, but if you're watching on Behance, you might.
Hey everybody, this week on the Motion Design Hotline, Kyle and I are talking about templates.
Yep, text ones specifically, and how you might build those to adapt to the text as you type it in, how you might set up certain colors and certain alignments. This is a pretty deep rabbit hole, and obviously we're not able to dive into every single little detail of it, but hopefully we give a good overview of some of the possibilities of these kinds of templates that you could build.
Yeah, we're going to be doing things with style. We're going to be doing things with ease. We are going to be looking at some edge cases that are probably going to come up if you are getting deeper and deeper into templates. So if that's something that vexes you in your life, then come on over to the Motion Design Hotline on Adobe Live, and we'll see you there.
Wow, we made it. Okay, we made it through, guys, and I'm still here, and you're still here. Thank you guys, everybody here. Thank you, Wade, for being our mod. Thank you, everyone. You guys were split right down the middle for the logos. All 16 votes said 50%. Yes, they were too similar. 50% they were not similar enough. Make sure you stick around. You've got office hours up next. I'll see you all next week. Same time, same place, file new. My name is Ryan Selvy, ryanselvy.com on Blue Sky, Ryan Selvy on Instagram, you name it. All right, thanks for watching, and goodbye.